Good afternoon. My name is Chris Chapple, and I'm the Doshi Professor of Indic and Comparative Theology, as well as the founding director of the Master of Arts in Yoga Studies. And I wanted to open with acknowledgement that this is May 1st. This is May Day, and it's important in so many different ways all over the world. And I want to share just one way that it's important, inspired by a question I got earlier this afternoon. And the question was, Loyola, isn't that Catholic? What are you doing? And I wanted to bring our attention to the birthday of Teilhard de Chardin, who was born on May 1st, 1881. As a young boy, he loved rocks. He loved rocks so much, he became a Jesuit priest and a geologist and a philosopher. And by examining the earth in the Gobi Desert, by writing the definitive geologic history of our own Malibu Canyon, he rejoiced. His vision of cosmic evolution is an inspiration. He wrote, "Love is the most universal, the most tremendous, and the most mystical of cosmic forces. Love is the primal and universal psychic energy. Love is a sacred reserve of energy. It is like the blood of spiritual evolution." And as we hear the wonderful words today and tomorrow of these students who have devoted so much of their energy and their love to these projects, I know that we will all be better as a result. So I welcome you all to the university, and I invite one of you going to MC, or shall I announce? Okay, so our very first speaker of the evening is none other than Iyanna Newborn, who will be sharing a very important project that comes from a place of deep love. So let's welcome.
Okay, can everybody see the screen? Can we get a thumbs up in the chat to make sure the Zoom folks can see the screen as well? Okay, thank you. My name is Iyanna Newborn.
Mike.
The mic, yeah. Okay, here we go. My name is Iyanna Newborn, and I am presenting on Re-cognizing Wholeness, a salutogenic approach to birth as exemplified through Black individuals. Special note, the subject matter could be a little sensitive to some, so if you need to take a break from the discussion at any point, I will not be offended if you leave the room or take a pause on your camera. Racism and discriminatory practices have created a complex relationship between African Americans and the present-day healthcare bureaucracy. The convergence of COVID-19 and social unrest due to police brutality renewed public attention to the inequalities people of color face in medical systems. The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists said that historically, Black women have had the highest infertility rates and maternal mortality rates in America. The California Department of Public Health, in collaboration with the Center for Health Equity at the UC San Francisco, released Centering Black Mothers California Report in 2023. Using data from the California Pregnancy Mortality Surveillance System, researchers found that maternal mortality rates for Black birthing people is 47.3. This is the blue line that you see in the chart. This means for every 100,000 live births, 47.3 Black women die. This is a staggeringly high and grossly disproportionate rate to other race and ethnicity groups, as you'll see in the lines towards the bottom of the graph. Studies propose racism and life stressors as factors related to these disparities. In 2021, during the inception of this project, I decided to focus on a potential solution rather than contributing factors to maternal morbidity and maternal mortality. My hypothesis: can yoga therapy mitigate stress, a common underlying element impacting birth in people of color? However, placing responsibility on African Americans potentially raises a red flag. Create critical examination of neoliberalism and the role that it's played in modern yoga cannot be ignored. Moving forward, I seek to find out if African Americans experiencing birth can develop a relationship with yoga and reflective practices outside a neoliberalist context by revisiting the contributing factors fueling the maternal mortality rate for Black birthing people, revealing the role radical self-care plays for people of color through a womanist theory, and substantiating why healing for communities of color should transcend neoliberalist framing. Before we dive in, I'd like to share my critical lens. Womanism values an integrated analysis of the power dynamics that fuel hegemonic systems of oppression and allows space to deconstruct systems of dominance. Alice Walker introduces the term in 1979. Where feminism focuses on dominance based on sex, womanism considers the interconnectedness of multiple systems of dominance, like racism, classism, sexism, heterosexism, homophobia, and transphobia. Focused attention on sex as the only system of dominance or social control is a form of social control in itself. Walker elaborates in a 4-part definition. Acting grown up, women who love women sexually or not, and are committed to the survival and wholeness of all people, is a lover of life and herself, and is spirited and spiritual, is similar to feminism. Now, the facts. Maternal mortality is defined as life-threatening complications during labor and delivery and up to 1 year post-delivery that result in death. Severe maternal morbidity is defined as potentially life-threatening complications during labor and delivery that result in short and long-term health conditions or death. The Black birthing population makes up 6.5% of the entire birthing population in California. I call your attention to the pie chart. 91% of the Black birthing population in California self-report being in good health prior to pregnancy. Shifting focus to the bar graph. Only 6.4% of Black people experiencing birth report having hypertension or some type of chronic condition prior to pregnancy. And yet, California inpatient data shows 19.8% have hypertension at delivery. Using administrative data from the National Inpatient Sample, the American Heart Association confirms that pregnant women with chronic or pregnancy-induced hypertension, women in minority groups have up to twice the risk of stroke during delivery admissions compared with white women. Studies researching the benefits of yoga during pregnancy often exclude high-risk markers like hypertension. My thesis is relevant and timely because it builds a case for hypertension as an effective marker for us to A, research the underlying impact on Black birthing populations, research this and other comorbidities impacting the Black community, and C, interpolating the data on the efficacy of yoga as an anti-hypertension lifestyle therapy, and hypothesize the possible effectiveness of yoga and reflective practices as a potential intervention for those experiencing birth. In 2011, Lisa Rosenthal and Marcy Lobel suggested that the accumulation of stress over a lifetime, labeled allostatic load, results in poor physiological adaptation, culminating in health problems. This cumulative effect of stress from repeated exposure to discrimination and life stressors, or weathering, is believed to contribute to Black Americans' poor health. To understand chronic stress, we must first understand stress. Stress is a common occurrence in nature and can be described as tension or pressure on an object or felt by a living being. Robert Sapolsky puts it plainly: stressors knock you out of balance, and the stress response is what your body does to reestablish balance. Some stress is healthy or even needed for bodily function. Allostasis is the process the human body goes through to reestablish balance or homeostasis. So how does it work? The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the HPA axis, is the body's stress response center and can be a barometer for allostatic load. To maintain homeostasis, messages are communicated between the brain and body through neuroendocrine mediators. When responding to a stressor, the sympathetic nervous system activates the HPA axis, which prompts stress hormones to flow through the body. The heart pumps faster and more oxygenated blood goes to the leg and arm muscles in preparation. Bodily function like digestion and reproduction are paused as they are not needed for the immediate response. When the HPA axis is overactive due to chronic stress, the same neuroendocrine mediators negatively impact the body due to overproduction, thereby increasing allostatic load. Research shows chronic stress disproportionately impacts communities of color. Studies suggest the body remains hypervigilant in anticipation of stress, never returning to homeostasis. Arlene Geronimus, public health researcher at the University of Michigan, has been studying the impact of stress on the body and within communities of color for decades. She likened the deterioration of the body's internal function to the weathering or erosion of the Earth's surface due to prolonged exposure to the elements. Her research substantiates that weathering as chronic stress leads to the attrition of Black people's internal function due to the lived experience. Now, when examining weathering through a womanist critical lens, we expose systemic systems of dominance. Structural violence is preventable harm without a singular aggressor that is woven into the fabric of society and materializes on an individual, a community or institutional, and government and policy level. I've shared a few examples for you to consider. Structural violence relevant to our conversation is situated on the meso or institutional level. Health disparities that disproportionately affect one group of people over another. As I said in my opening statement, African Americans and present-day healthcare systems have a complex relationship. Mistrust of the medical system didn't begin with the Tuskegee syphilis study or Henrietta Lacks. Fear dates back to the period of enslavement. The Black body was considered property and less than human, therefore expendable. J. Marion Sims, 19th century doctor and father of modern gynecology, conducted 30 excruciating operations without the use of anesthesia on 3 enslaved Black women. Control of Black women's reproduction extended into modern times in the form of forced, sometimes coerced or covert sterilizations. American medical institutions have historically failed and continue to fail Black women, period. I call your attention to the comments made in present day by physicians regarding their Black birthing patients and constituents. While these are just two examples, their full comments show a pattern of dismissal and implicit bias that parallel experiences focus group participants shared with the Centering Black Mothers California report. I invite us to pause for a moment. I know I'm talking fast and this is a lot of heavy information for us to digest, so I invite a breath. I need to thank a visiting professor for asking me a very important question. I was excited to have the opportunity to meet them and share my project, and their response was not nearly as enthusiastic as I thought it would be. Their pushback, and I'm quoting and paraphrasing, so bear with me. Doesn't making birthing people of color responsible for healing their own stress play into neoliberalism? This is a question we wrestle with as students all the time. Neoliberalism is a subset of white privilege rooted in colonialism and capitalism, perpetuating racist, classist, sexist, ableist, and heterosexual, sexist, homophobic structures of oppression. Neoliberalism and capitalism share the same goal: profit utilizing free market enterprise, and the same side effects: commercialization, consumerism, and materialism. The difference between the two lies in neoliberal ideals. Would-be consumers are encouraged to self-liberate and be responsible for their livelihood and well-being. Needless to say, I was a little perturbed. I didn't have a good response for them in that moment, but I knew there was one. The defining purpose of BCLA yoga studies is to support the transformation of communities, alleviating suffering through yoga. Thanks, Jackie. How can I and we, graduates of this program, move past the neoliberalist framing of modern yoga and move forward working with K through 12 and college students, elderly, underserved, and impoverished populations, BIPOC communities, women during the stages of menopause, before, during, and after pregnancy, survivors of intimate partner violence, climate change activists, and others? You will hear about many of these awesome programs in the presentations that follow. I encourage you to listen for reoccurring themes. In the specificity of each of our projects, universal concepts transcend individual populations and make this something that we all can really get behind and understand. I offer the following response to neoliberalism. Examination of structural violence reveals psychological and physiological impacts systems of dominance have on Black people. It's embedded into the social fabric of America, and we continue to dismiss and fail Black women on an individual, institutional, and policy level. Black women, trans, non-binary, non-gender conforming individuals, self-actualization in a system that was not designed to support our survival, let alone self-realization, usurps the question of neoliberalism, as our survival is a radical act of resistance. Breathing, taking up space, is resistance. Caring for myself is not self-indulgent, it is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. If we do not care for ourselves, our children, our mothers and families, our sisters and siblings, our community, who will? In a burst of light, Audre Lorde states, for Black women, learning to consciously extend ourselves to each other and call upon each other's strengths is a life-saving strategy. We give ourselves strength to face structural violence and systems of oppression designed against us. As a woman committed to the survival and wholeness of all people, it's my duty, my dharma, to share this knowledge with other Black women, with other Black people experiencing birth. I conclude my presentation by sharing a snapshot of my suggested solution. I presented the full program at a different colloquium, so you'll have to read my thesis to get the full breadth. But I do have a few points that I want to leave you with. Yoga therapy is a resource, a pathway for Black people to reconnect with their whole selves. It offers a possible way to mitigate stress in the Black person's body through a salutogenic approach to care for the self. Salutogenesis actively promotes beneficial factors of health and resilience, simultaneously accounting for cultural and sociocultural factors that impact a community. Intrinsically, this paradigm does not responsibilize the community for its own health. Yoga examines the total person, mind, body, and spirit, in addition to ruminations on the universe, an individual's place in the universe, and the interconnectedness of all life forms. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the Yoga Vasishtha, the Bhagavad Gita, and other pre-modern texts acknowledge the existence of wisdom and suffering. Wisdom lies in seeing the self separate from the senses, receiving input from the circumstances that permeates one's being. In a whole person approach to healthfulness, yoga therapy uses philosophy to consider one's 5 layers of being. The Panchamaya Kosha model reveals the layered complexities of the self, that psychic and psychosomatic afflictions manifest as physical pain or dis-ease in the body. Imbalance in one or care for one aspect will impact the others. Evidence of this can be seen in the connection between chronic stress and allostatic load. Studies have shown that mind-body interventions can create resilience and reduce allostatic load. Implementing therapeutic yoga programs that facilitate homeostasis in the bodies of those experiencing birth could be a plausible way to counteract stress before it manifests as dis-ease. I acknowledge my program supports Black people experiencing birth on an individual or micro level. Interconnected systems of dominance must be confronted on all levels, simultaneously encouraging systemic change on a meso and macro level. I am committed to collaborating with doulas and healthcare providers and coordinating efforts with maternal health and reproductive justice organizations that are currently working towards these goals. Through a womanist lens, Re-cognizing Wholeness, a salutogenic approach to birth as exemplified through Black individuals, critically examines the contributing factors fueling the maternal mortality rate for Black birthing people, reveals the role radical self-care can play for people of color, and substantiates why healing for communities of color through yoga and reflective practices need to transcend neoliberalist framing. While my title suggests working with a very specific population, my findings have the potential to expand and serve a universal guide to supporting others. If you're wondering how you can help, I encourage you to support these organizations. My family, Cherie Scott and Sister Reach, based in Memphis, Tennessee and Chicago, Illinois. Dr. Saida Pepper-Wilson and Diversity Uplifts. Local organizations in California like Black Mamas Matter Alliance and Black Women for Wellness, and the Los Angeles County for African American Infant and Mortality Initiative. With gratitude. Thank you.